Alrighty, now joined by my good friend and a teammate for a fun collaboration to speak a little bit about some class swaps and more specifically into the Necromancer with one of the best Necromancers in the world, Darth Microtransaction. How you doing, man?
Sure, why not? Yeah, why not? Let's go with that.
We're gonna go
I'm
with
doing
it right
great.
in the title, straight to the title, straight to the thumbnail.
Why not? Yeah, best in the world. Number one. You know what? I'm best there's ever been. Let's go with that way. In all of the Diablo games.
That's right. Cool. Well then, so I know this is a fun one. I wanted to get a couple videos out on the channel here with a different spin on the whole class swap thing. People are going to be seeing lots of builds out there from great content creators like Darth, who's doing some topics on the different classes. I wanted to put a different spin on it, and maybe someone who's considering switching to a Necromancer. What are, maybe not necessarily a specific build, but what are the things to keep in mind? What are the positives? What are the negatives? You picked Necro from the start. Was it a good
Okay.
choice? And just kind of like, you can walk me through like your random stuff and I'll jump in with questions.
So I think there's this like really big misconception that people have where it's you're gonna play Necromancer and then you're just gonna do like the most damage. And that is pretty much exactly not right. Like, I don't think necromancers do the most damage. I think they do some pretty obscene damage and they do great damage for sure. But, like, they're not the most. On top of it, most of your build is almost like a support type of build. Like, a lot of your build is kind of weird utility type of moves, like either knockups or shields to make you immune to either immunity for like knockbacks or make you immune to damage. And I think a lot of people think it's all about just like summoning a bunch of your little like minion guys, and a lot of times you all have builds that literally don't even have minions in them at all. Like, and one of the best PvP builds has zero, like it's a zero minion build, and it's zero DPS build where you actually just don't, your whole point is just to CC. So it might actually be a playstyle that some people don't like. So I would go, if you're really into PvP and you're like, oh, I constantly get shit on by Necros, you might want to go watch some Necro footage because you might not actually like the playstyle literally at all. It's closer to a support style where you're like shielding people and CCing people and then letting other people kill people. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing is like Necromancer gems don't work too great. Like Seeping Bow doesn't trigger off summon builds again. Like your summons don't trigger. You have to use Everlasting Torment to then trigger Seeping Bow, which means you have to fight against yourself on the gems. So if you're somebody who's like a massive whale and you have like a massive Blood-Soaked Jade that you spent like $1,000 to max out or whatever the price would be, like you should be aware that Blood-Soaked Jade damage literally doesn't work on summons. Seeping Bio does not get triggered by summons and stuff like that. Like I have both of these gems, and I can tell you that. So
That's
you
an
might
important one because I've heard conflicting reports on that. I've heard kind of both arguments. I definitely trust your judgment because you have so much time on Necro, but I want to make everybody aware. I've heard different, like about the seeding bile and all that type of stuff with the minions.
yes. As far as I'm aware, the minions don't proc Seeping Bio unless you have Everlasting Torment gem on it already, and the minion damage won't proc it. You can proc Seeping Bio on your other abilities, so people might be confusing them. But like the minions themselves, like if you have minion skeletons and they're sitting there attacking the boss, like you can sit there and watch your minion skeletons attack that boss all day long. You're not going to get a Seeping Bow proc on it.
Gotcha.
So, and plus, like the reports, there's a lot of bug reports of this. You can go to the forums and see this. So,
Okay. And what's like the skill cap on PvP? Is it pretty easy to get good value out of the Necro, or is there a lot of like
I think it's pretty
nuance?
obvious what you're supposed to do. Like, I think, in my personal opinion, it's very obvious what you're supposed to do, which is you use your fear, you run on top of the people, you fear them, then you bone wall them over and over again. You knock them up with the bone spikes, and then hopefully people on your team have killed them. I mean, for me, it's blindly obvious. I would say the hard part is in knowing how to do that without dying. Like you have to be able to run in with your Wraith Fear to be able to fear people, and that's kind of your move that also gets you out. Your bone armor's on a decently long cooldown. Like trying to be a good CC'er without inting is probably where the skill cap is. I don't think it's a particularly hard class to play. I think spamming CC is pretty easy to do. So I don't really think it's like, I mean, I can't be like, oh yeah, I'm so skilled because I ran around spam knockups. Like it's not really like a skill thing. It's just kind of the way it works.
Okay. And what's the PvE experience like? Do you have to swap builds a lot depending on if you're doing challenge rifts or dungeons or open world farming? And
Yeah, the builds are pretty different. Like PvP build is significantly different to the build that I use for overworld farming, which is probably going to be a little different than the build that I use for dungeon farming. So you get some pretty good use out of your armory, and the armory is quite bad anyway because you're always getting upgrades and you always have to go back to override, etc. So like the builds, yeah, they're different for sure. The build you guys have been seeing this whole time, this is my overworld farming build, which has one skill that overlaps with the PvP build. So yeah, they are quite different. I don't think you're going to get good use out of the armory. So you'll probably want to have a good amount of different legendaries. I use probably half the legendaries that the Necromancer has at any given time. I can go back and forth between them. And there's a good variety of builds. I think there's more than just like one or two viable builds. There seems to be people arguing amongst themselves about what's the best. So you get some good variety out of it.
And you haven't really gotten to do a whole lot of like the clan war type stuff because you're the leader in our clan, so you end up being the main boss. Can you speak to like the Shadow Wars and the Rite of Exiles and what Necro's like in there? Do you think they're like, because
I think
go ahead.
Single target damage for necromancers can be lacking. You kind of want echoing shave, and you have to sort of do like a guided by maggots frenzy single target summon build for that. And this part I can't confirm because, like you say, I'm the leader, but I've heard that the summons don't count towards things like the glory chest and the raid. Like it literally doesn't count as your damage, so the percentage damage you see and all that's just not right. Like you actually are doing way more, but it's not crediting you for your minion damage. I don't know how much of that is accurate because I haven't tested it myself. But that's what I've heard is one of the problems with necromancers.
Okay, cool. So sounds like if somebody is in the camp of they like to crank out damage and kill stuff, maybe like a wizard or a demon hunter would be a better choice. But if somebody likes to be the support and CC stuff and have minions, then Necro would be the like a more utility route to go.
I think Necro is basically a theme class where it's like you like what the theme of the class is, so you play the class. I think that's what Diablo is. I don't want to recommend people towards stuff based upon what's currently good because I bet it's going to get nerfed into the ground at some point or changed or whatever. I pretty much am going to point people towards what they think's fun. I think if the Necromancer looks fun for you, you like what I've described, you should play the Necromancer.
Okay, and is there the 3 different minions? Because summoning builds are like the most popular thing. So is it like...
Yeah, you get the golem, you get a mage, and you get the little guys, like the skeleton dudes. And the low skeleton guys you get 4 of. You can have, it's a total of, I think it's 6 or 7. I think it might be 6 minions total. So you can have like your 4 minions plus your mage plus your golem. And you start spamming other ones, other dudes who are going to get deleted. So you can have a total of 6. But there's the golem, there's the mages, which you can have a total of 3 of if you have like the exact right build, because you can go like this, you can stack 1, you can wait a minute, then you can stack the other 2. You can kind of have 3 of them. You can have your molten golem, and then you have your 4 little guys. But again, they'll get deleted if you stack too many at once. So then there's also the Grim Reaper version of these mages you can have. There's the skeleton, like the big skeleton whirlwind version of the skeleton guy. So there's variants of them, but there's only 3 summon skills.
And is that pretty powerful? Like, do you ever use like the full summoning build?
I do, which is more of your single target type thing, because like the skeleton command skeleton guys here, these are more of your single target doohickeys. You're going to use these guys when you're trying to nuke down bosses and stuff, because you're going to get 4 of them, and their ability makes them do like an attack speed thing. Then you're going to use guided by maggots. Problem with that is if you have guided by maggots, increase the attack speed of all your guys, plus you got all your dudes up here. You don't have any other moves. Like you don't have any defensive moves. You don't have Wraith Form to dodge anything. You're kind of a sitting duck a lot of times. So I'm not like a huge fan of pure summon builds. Plus the mobility is just really low too.
Okay, and how does it compare to like the expected performance? Like when I was talking with Demon Hunter about you, I was like, you really don't want to be behind the people you're playing with because they're kind of counting on you for damage, and Demon Hunter can't really bring a whole lot of utility. Can Necro be on either side of that? You know, like maybe you're a little bit behind.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Like the logic is you don't really need damage because in PvP you're all about this stuff that doesn't, like, they're not damaging moves literally anyway. But the other counter side of that logic is because of the way that potency and resistance works and wells work, etc. That if you don't have a lot of these stats, increasing the durations, of your CCs, etc., it's not going to be that great anyway. I think that free to play can play Necro and be totally fine. One, because the minions will kind of tank for you a little bit, so it's a little bit easier to stay alive, even though they still get shredded in higher combat rate, and there's no way around that, but it's still a little bit more tanky. And then in PvP, you can use the CC build. And like the knock up with the Zoominid's backbone, like basically your bone wall knock up, like you can't mitigate that time with resistance or anything. They're in the air type of time. So that part's just static anyway. So for that reason, it literally Monday doesn't do anything for that at all.
Okay, cool. Any other kind of random little tips that you've gotten in your hours of Necro, like maybe a cheap gem to watch out for, or just kind of anything random you want to throw in here as we kind of wrap up that people should know if they're considering switching over to Necro?
Yeah, I think the challenge rifts are going to be something that's really fun to do on Necromancer. So a lot of people are going to think, oh, I'm going to push the challenge rifts with it. But the challenge rifts you can get carried from. You just go find a well on your server and you can get carried through it anyway. So if you're thinking about playing the Necros because you see them pushing challenge rifts, etc., keep in mind Necromancer is the most popular class in the game, has the most people, which means it's going to have the most individual wells, and so you're going to be seeing people push the challenge rift the most with them too. Like all the classes can push the challenge rift. Necro will do a little bit better, but the challenge rift is so mildly important, like not important at all, because you can get carried through it by other people, that if you're debating, plus the rewards you get for being solo challenge rift are dog shit, whereas the good rewards are the ones you get by being in a party with other people anyway. So if you're debating playing Necro just because you see it's a better solo class, like that's not the reason. Don't even bother. Like only play what you think's fun. That's my end point. Play what you think's the fun. Don't worry about the technical side of it. Don't worry about the balance. Find the class you like the theme of. And I like Necro a lot. It's super fucking fun. It's 10 out of 10 fun. I haven't hated playing it at all.
And so now that they're going to be adding class swap, were you considering at all swapping off of Necro, or are you ride or die till the end of time going Necro?
I mean, I love Necro. It's gonna be hard to swap if I do swap, but I almost feel like I've been backstabbing Mage this whole time because like I played Mage in all the other MMOs I always played. So this is like the first time I'm basically not playing a Mage. So I really kind of want to swap to a Mage, but you know, I have a level 48 Mage already. That's my free to play, and I might just keep playing on that. I don't know. Well, we'll have to see. I haven't decided. Maybe if a new class comes. I know I'm probably making that up and that's all speculation, but it's like maybe if that Blood Knight comes, like I'm guessing.
Nice. So if you had it to do all over again, you would still go Necro?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Cool. Well, that's what I wanted to chat with you about in terms of just like some general thoughts on switching over to Necro and what people should expect and all of that. So is there anything else you want to touch on before we say goodbye?
Yeah, if there's any Alaskan Diablo players, let's meet up because apparently Diablo is actually the most popular of all 50 states in Alaska, and that's where I'm at, and I didn't
Really?
realize that. Yeah, no, 100% it is. It's like more popular in Alaska than any other state. So fuck it, let's go get some beers, boys.
There you go. And there's always a Discord link down below. You can get in touch with me or Darth or post on the server. If when are you trying to do your hangout up there? That'll be super cool.
I kind of want to do it like next week or something.
Oh, so soon. Okay. All right.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I like to go have a beer with the boys and eat a burger and talk some Diablo shit. I think that'd be fun. There's at least a few people that I know that are close to me, so sooner rather than later, hopefully.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Well, then that will do it for us on this one. And I will link to Darth's channel down below. He's one of the best and most consistent sources of knowledge for Diablo Immortal. You definitely want to check that out and throw him a sub to keep in the loop. So thanks for joining me, Darth. Appreciate it.
Of course, anytime.